All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a book that, let's be honest, is a bit of a challenge. I'm talking about First Chronicles. You know the one. It's famous, or maybe infamous, for one thing in particular: names. Just so many names.
I mean, you open it up, and boom, it hits you. Adam, Seth, Enosh, Canaan, Mahalalel, okay? Noah, Shem, Ham, Japheth. And it doesn't stop. It just keeps rolling. The sons of Japheth, the sons of Gomer, the sons of Ham, the sons of Cush. And this goes on for nine straight chapters. It's just this relentless wall of names. And you're sitting there thinking, what is the point of all this, right? Is this just some ancient phone book? A historical document that's kind of lost its meaning? It feels impossible to get through. But what if I told you that hidden inside all those lists, there's actually a powerful story about survival, identity, and, believe it or not, hope? Well, that's exactly what we're going to uncover today. So, to get our heads around this, here's our game plan. We'll look at why it's a book of names. Then, we'll dig into its real purpose, rebuilding a nation's identity. From there, we'll zoom in on the main character, David, the ideal king. Then we'll see how this whole thing serves as a blueprint for society. And finally, we'll wrap it all up and see how we get from lists to legacy. I promise, by the end, you'll get why every single one of these names was so important.
Okay, let's jump right in. Part 2, Rebuilding a Nation's Identity. See, to get the what of these lists, you gotta start with the why. I mean, why would anyone even sit down and write this book?
And this timeline right here is everything. The person writing this, who we just call the chronicler, is doing it after a total national disaster. I'm talking the people of Judah were conquered by Babylon, their king killed, their temple destroyed, and they were dragged off into exile as prisoners for generations. So now you have this group of people who have finally returned home, but they've lost everything: their land, their government. They've lost their sense of who they even are. They are broken people, literally trying to rebuild from the ashes.
Okay, so we have to get this in our heads. For them, a genealogy wasn't just some fun family tree project. No way. It was basically your passport, your social security card, your entire identity rolled into one. Your family line decided if you could own land, what your social status was. It even proved you were a legal member of the community. Without that connection, you were a nobody, just disconnected and totally lost.
So here's the kicker. These lists weren't just lists. They were tools for survival. They reconnected these returning exiles to this incredible, heroic past that went all the way back to Adam and Abraham. They were drawing a line in the sand, defining who was in and who was out of this new community. These names gave people a legal claim to their family's land and their specific jobs, like being a priest. But more than anything, they offered a blueprint, a roadmap for a stable, hopeful future.
And all of this massive project of rebuilding a national identity, it was all anchored to one single person. And that brings us to our next part: David, the ideal king. He's the North Star that all of these long, winding lists are pointing towards.
You know, if you trace that long thread of names right from the start of the book, you start to see something amazing. It's not random at all. It's a path. It's like the entire history of humanity, at least in the chronicler's telling, is one big funnel. And it all leads down to one guy: David, the seventh son of Jesse. He's the whole point of the genealogies.
So why David? Why him? Well, the chronicler makes it totally obvious by putting him side by side with the king before him, Saul. Saul, disobedient. His kingdom was stripped away from him. But David, oh, all of Israel came to him. He asked God for direction. The kingdom was given to him. The message for a nation picking up the pieces couldn't be clearer. Be like David, not like Saul.
And the support David had, it was absolutely massive. I mean, just look at these numbers. 50,000 armed men from the tribe of Zebulun alone, 120,000 from the tribes on the other side of the Jordan River. The writer makes a huge point of this, saying basically everyone in Israel was united. They all wanted David to be king. Now that was the kind of unity these returning exiles were dreaming of.
And then you get these little flashes of, wow. Moments where the lists just suddenly explode with life. Like buried in a long list of David's best soldiers is this insane detail about a guy named Benaiah. It says he went down into a pit and killed a lion on a snowy day. That's not just a name on a list, that's a legend. The chronicler is showing us that David wasn't just a king, he was a king surrounded by these almost mythical heroes.
But really, the number one reason David is held up as the ideal is this incredible promise directly from God, that his kingdom, his throne, would be secure forever.
Now just imagine you're part of a nation whose kingdom was just utterly destroyed. Hearing that promise, that would be everything. It meant your future wasn't lost, because your hope was tied to the family line of David.
So David wasn't just a warrior king. He was a master organizer. Which brings us, yes, to the other long lists in the book, the ones that lay out exactly how the whole nation should be set up. This is our next part, a blueprint for society.
And the scale of what David put together is just mind-blowing. He gets 38,000 men from the tribe of Levi, that's the priestly tribe, and gives every single one of them a specific job to help run the country. This isn't just about church stuff, this is about building a stable, working society from scratch.
And check out how he broke down their roles. Okay, 24,000 were in charge of the temple work, sure. But then you have 6,000 who were judges and officials. That's the entire national court system. Another 4,000 were gatekeepers, think national security. And another 4,000 were musicians in charge of national worship. I mean, every single part of public life was carefully ordered and organized.
And the level of detail is just incredible. It was like a perfectly well-oiled machine. You had the priests, they had their jobs. The musicians, led by these specific families, had their responsibilities. Even the gatekeepers were all sorted into different divisions. For the people coming back from exile, this wasn't just history. It was a literal blueprint for how to get order and worship back on track in their own time.
This level of organization even applied to the military. David came up with this absolutely brilliant system for a standing army. He created 12 divisions, 24,000 men in each. But here's the clever part. Each division only served for 1 month out of the year, so you get constant, year-round national security, but without bankrupting the country. It was just this orderly, totally sustainable system.
Okay, so we've got a unified history, we've got an ideal king, and we've got a blueprint for the nation. Let's put it all together in our final section. From lists to legacy.
So the way the chronicler tells it, David's final big act wasn't another battle or conquest. No, it was an act of preparation. He spent his last days pulling together this unbelievable treasure of gold, silver, and all sorts of materials. And then he hands his son Solomon the detailed blueprints for building the temple, what would become the permanent spiritual heart of the nation.
And get this, his last words to his son aren't about holding on to power or being a great king. They're about being faithful and being brave. He tells Solomon, "Be strong, do the work, don't be afraid, because God is with you." He's literally passing the torch, making sure that the legacy he built is going to carry on.
So let's circle all the way back to that first question. What is the point of all these lists? Well, here it is. 1 Chronicles gave a broken people a shared past, reminding them, hey, we're all connected. It gave them a blueprint for a structured present, showing them exactly how to organize their society again. And it gave them a hopeful future, one that was anchored to the promise made to David and the temple he dreamed up. So the big takeaway is this. The book of 1 Chronicles is not some boring, dusty list of names. Not at all. It is a carefully, even brilliantly crafted story of identity, of purpose, and of incredible hope. And it was written specifically for a nation that was desperately trying to put itself back together again.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thought. Every community, right? Every family, every nation, we all tell a story about who we are and where we're going. We do it through the names we remember, the histories we tell, and the way we organize ourselves. It's our own blueprint for identity and purpose. So it makes you wonder, what's yours?